back to Coffee Chats. This is episode 3, where we're moving efficiently here, Bonnie.
I know, we're doing well.
Doing very well. So, today's episode of the podcast, it's another episode that's just going to give you guys some context around the breathwork shed, because it is a massive part of our conversation, at least when we're having coffee.
Yeah.
I think just because we're so fascinated with how the breath, something as seemingly as innocuous as the breath, can cultivate so much self-awareness and bring you to speed and shed some light on so many things that you were perhaps unconscious about. And, you know, one of the reasons why Siobhan got so much from breath work is because, you know, truth be told, she had a lot of pain that perhaps hadn't been brought to light, you know, to a as great a degree as what the breath did for you, you know. And we just thought it would be really important to give you guys some context around that. You know, the first couple of episodes here of the Coffee Chats podcast are all about, you know, getting to know us, so that, you know, we can build rapport with you guys, and then perhaps you might want to take on some of the things we say as a little bit more valuable, and then, you know, hopefully you can let us know who you are and comment and share and all that sort of stuff, and then we can help growing it. We can help grow it in the way that you like. But anyway, in terms of that, I will let you take the microphone, I suppose.
Yeah. So in the last podcast, I talked about the anxiety and the depression, and as much as I fucking hate dwelling and playing the victim card, I just thought it was so important to get these 3 stories out about how breathwork helped me, and then I'm done. Because I always say this to my breathwork clients, like, you work on the shit that comes up with breathwork and you change your story and you don't dwell on it. So I find it really important to get these like done and never talk about it again.
I think what's important to know there, though, is like there is a difference between talking about your story and using it in an empowering way to shed some light on your experience and maybe help other people that are currently moving through a similar narrative, as opposed to literally ruminating, dwelling on it, you know, provoking people to sympathize. You know, there is a difference between a victim mentality, why me, this will always be me, as opposed to this happened in my life and look how far I've come, look how excited I am to be me.
And I'm definitely wanting to share it because I'd love to reach out to people that are either going through something similar or have been through something similar, and hopefully breathwork can help them, or me talking about it can help them too. So yeah, it's definitely a story that I want to share, but I obviously fucking hate talking about it.
But you know what? It's so fitting that we're talking about it today.
Why?
Given what just happened.
I know.
Can we say that on the show?
Nah, not yet.
Oh, we can't say it?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. They probably think you're fucking pregnant or something.
No way. No way. We have a dog.
we have a dog. We have enough. No, but something really cool happened.
Yeah, it did.
Okay. Hey, but by the time this comes out...
Oh, true.
We'll say it.
I got my visa.
Siobhan is officially... We're officially partner visa.
Got my partner visa, so it's amazing. So it's really fitting for this podcast.
Exactly.
Because I've been waiting for like 10 years, and I've already applied for this before with other partners, and this rolls really well into this podcast.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does.
Funny. Yeah.
I know.
Good point.
Kick it off, Bonnie.
So yeah, another kind of reason why breathwork helped me was because in previous relationships, and not just one but many, it was something that I kept attracting was partners that were betraying me or cheated on me or were just doing stuff behind my back that obviously I thought I kind of let it go, thought it was okay, or didn't know about it. And when I discovered breathwork, and the realizations that came up were about how like it wasn't acceptable and how I was just letting things pass, and how I thought it was like a normal part of society that guys just do that, so I'd kind of just leave it, then move on to the next thing, and I would never learn my lessons when I was moving through relationships. And that's like not blaming anyone or anything, but it was just mainly my fault as well for not having enough love for myself to realize what they were doing was not acceptable for me. So I would kind of lower my standards of self-love, let them do what they were doing, which was breaking my heart, and just accepting that it was okay, I guess. Which led on to I actually went through like hypnosis to try and repair it, because I was getting triggered really easily. So in this relationship, if Tom did something that was similar to past relationships, I would kind of not lose it in a like mental way, but I would kind of go inside and be like, what's going on, why am I feeling this way? And then went through hypnosis, and she explained to me that it was trauma. which I would never thought betrayal would lead to me having trauma. And when you think of trauma, I used to think of it as like PTSD, which are all forms of trauma, and huge accidents and big things that would happen in your lives, like deaths or just any sort of accidents, going through surgery. And I would never ever think that betrayal would be a form of trauma. So if that's something you're going through, just to let you know, it is trauma, and to study it, and it's definitely something that affects the way the brain and the mind works.
Yeah, trauma is a major discussion point, at least in this relationship. We talk about it all the time, and I think there's a really big spillover when it comes to trauma and how you manage your relationships, because when two people come together and are going to be spending all this time together, because obviously we very much hope that you love each other, your egos are going to clash, your senses of identity are going to clash, because as Siobhan said, trauma is subjective, and you're going to be viewing the world, yourself and your partner, through a different lens. You're going to be seeing the world in a different way based on the experiences that you've had. And when we talk about trauma being subjective, there are objective cases, that we can all recognize as being traumatic. Victims of rape, war veterans, clear psychological abuse, violence, all that sort of stuff. We know that that's probably going to have a traumatic effect, a distressing effect for the months and years to come. But whatever has kind of changed your perception of self or world to a negative degree probably did emanate from a specifically tough experience.
Well, I always say so triggers are something that makes you feel maybe even anxious or scared or afraid or annoyed or agitated, and when you get those feelings, it's definitely something that you need to dive into and look into. And obviously Tom kept triggering me, and I had no idea why, because I was but our relationship's so good, and I obviously was madly madly in love with you.
Good to know.
I was wondering what was going on and why was I feeling this way, because you were actually not really doing anything wrong, but in my head I was but this is what the other guys did and they were betraying me. So it's definitely something when you feel like that to really look into it. So I got recommended to go to a hypnosis, and this was way before breath work. And did that, and she really went into my subconscious and see what was going on there, and it literally went back to when I was probably my very first relationship I was in, when I was maybe 14 or something, to that back then it was a serious relationship.
Of course.
And he actually cheated on me with my best friend, and I was oh yeah, whatever, we're in high school, this is normal, and I just left it. But in my subconscious, when I was getting hypnotized at the age of 31, it was that inner child was no, that really hurt my feelings. I'm going to put a guard up in your brain to make sure that anything else happens like that again, you're not going to get hurt, and I'm going to protect you. So any guy since then that would hurt me or do something similar, I'm oh, but he did that, I would just freak out. My brain would be on automatic what the fuck is going on mode.
Yeah.
And it would really try and protect me, but I had no idea what was going on with it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always think of it as a beautiful example of the way we've evolved. For the brain to see similar experiences and then associate that with something from the past to protect you as a way to keep you alive, I think is beautiful. But in this day and age, when we are so far removed from cause and effect and survivalist mentality, you have to know when that is actually working for you or when it's actually working as a detriment to you.
Yeah.
And I mean, just so you know, Siobhan wasn't just reading the whole thing wrong. I had some serious baggage, I had heaps of issues around my anxiety. I was white lying a lot because I had a lot of fear, and obviously lying and deception is a huge thing, in betrayal and relationship deception and stuff. So I was by no means fucking perfect in this. I was triggering you.
Yeah.
I was the one screwing this up.
Yeah.
But we both clearly had things that we had to work on because we were clashing.
But a good example is a white lie. So to someone it's oh whatever, you just white lie, is something really small, but to someone who was going through trauma, which I was going through and obviously didn't know at the time, I was but he lied.
Yeah.
And that means he's going to betray me, because that's what all my previous relationships were
They all lie.
They literally continuously lied. And then when I'm in a solid relationship like mine and yours, what I consider solid,
Same.
I was like, well, what the fuck are you white lying for? Like, you're just exactly the same as them, and then I put you in that category. And then in your defense, you're like, what? But it was like so little. It was just like a little white lie. It doesn't mean anything. And blah. And then we had to like really work through that. And then because you understood what a white lie was to me, it's not. It's like something really big. We had to work through like something so small as a white lie can't be like done anymore to help with my trauma.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was great for me as well because I began to dive when Siobhan started talking about trauma and all this sort of stuff. I'd only ever seen mental health, based around anxiety and depression. I started to study trauma massively. It's one of the things I'm most fascinated with in the psychological landscape, and it helped me come to understand the reasons why I was white lying, all that need for external validation and all that need to prove to myself constantly that I was okay and things like that. And it was, you and I always look at life as how is this happening for us?
Yeah,
and that initial clash that, almost led us to breaking up if we're not going to beat around the bush.
Yeah.
Especially in Bali, when, as we spoke about on the last episode, was the best thing that happened to us. And now it's not just like we consider this relationship strong, we know this relationship strong because we know everything about each other. And we know, like, let's just say, for example, you lied or I lied. We know within an instant because we're so aware of how the other person reacts and behaves.
Yeah. And I think that's so important, like, in a relationship, like if someone's getting annoyed or triggered, it's like, well, dive into, look into why are they getting annoyed and why are they getting triggered. Like, do you really know everything about their past, and is there any way that you can help them? It's like if someone's constantly not doing something or doing something and either triggers you, it's like really dive into it and figure out why. Because if I didn't dive into like why am I so fucking annoyed all the time, like so annoyed that to the point that you were white lying, that I'm like, fuck, I'm done, like next, this keeps happening to me. But if I didn't dive into that through like the hypnosis and then the breath work, I would have never known, like we wouldn't be together.
No.
Because it's just like relationships take work, and you need to understand why your partner, like why they are the way they are.
Yeah, and I remember a moment when we were driving to Werribee. I think we just started our Sunday relationship days, and I was really interested, and I went about it in the worst possible way, but I was really interested in your background because this is the first mature adult relationship I've ever been in, and we're coming on 3 years now, so done well.
Good work, Tom.
Thank you. Yeah, but I was really interested in the experiences you had before, and I kept probing you on your previous relationship, and that was a really tough one for you, and I kept probing, and then you just burst into tears, and I couldn't, that was just an incredible moment, I think, for the both of us, because I realised that I don't know my girlfriend anywhere near as much as I should, and I'm also not communicating to her in a way that is beneficial for the both of us.
Yeah.
And you also realised that there is something in there that needs to be brought out.
Yeah, like I needed to do something about it. Definitely as I was diving more into like the mental health world, I was like, yeah, this is not right if I'm like still crying, discussing something that happened so long ago. Yeah.
I know.
And then obviously doing the breath work, I can now like chat about it and fucking be thankful for it.
I know, that's an incredible place that you can come to after being cheated on, betrayed, deceived, like when your foundation is rocked to that degree. And then you can come to a place now where you're really happy that happened.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe
so
talk people through that. Like, how does that happen?
Well, I feel like, so when I did the breath work, it was definitely loads coming up about like self-love, and I know that's another fucking phrase that gets thrown about, but whatever, it was true. I just didn't love myself enough to respect myself, to have the boundaries to be like, what you're doing is totally unacceptable for me, like I expect higher, because if you, like, I was obviously in a position where I didn't love myself because I was letting people betray me, just like, yeah, that's okay, and then kind of just roll with it and just keep going. So I clearly just had no self-love, and when that was coming up in breathwork, it's like, no, you need to love yourself, not accept like other people's shit or the way you're treating you, and that goes for everyone in any relationship, like family, friends. Like if someone's bringing in that negative energy all the time, or they're not encouraging you, not supporting you, they're not bringing in that like you know, helping you move forward to be a better human. Like, it's just not acceptable. And if you love yourself so much, which every single person should be working towards that, or should be doing that, yeah, you're just gonna accept shit. Like, that's what I was doing, and it really came out in breath work to the point, well, when I did the course, I was like, I just cried. I was so sad that I let these people treat me this way, because I didn't love myself enough to demand better, demand more. And then obviously in our relationship, when I went through all that, I was like, I demand more.
Yeah.
I expect to be treated this way. And you're like, damn it.
I know.
And
It was brilliant.
And we came up with a saying. It was like, no more bullying Bonnie.
I know. We did. This is so
because
true.
I did. Like, Tom would be like, we're doing this, or I'm doing that. I'm like, yeah, okay, just to make you happy.
I know.
And then as soon as I got back from breathwork, like my course, I was like, no, I don't want to do that. And he'd be like, what? I'm like, no, I don't want to. Or we'd have a discussion. I was like, I don't agree.
Yeah.
Whereas before, I'd be like, yeah, like, whatever.
I know. Yeah.
And then I literally just was like, no, don't agree with this, don't agree with whatever.
Yeah.
I like really stood up. Like, I think the whole self-love thing is like setting boundaries, like standing up for what you believe in, and if that's like a true passion, and doing what you fucking want. Like, seriously, yeah, if you've grown up in like, obviously people have been like, oh, you need to do things this way or that way, and if you start doing things that you truly like love and the way you want to do them, it really helps. But yeah, definitely, like, from your end, well, I'll let you talk, but you were kind of like, Jesus.
Yeah.
Who am I with?
It was really good, because I think I did have a narcissistic element to me, you know, where I just had this like, I feel so right about things that I can't possibly be wrong.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I was like, Siobhan, you'd started, you know, saying different things, disagreeing here and there. And it was kind of like, I was defensive initially because I couldn't gauge you.
Yeah.
You know? And then, I would stand by the idea that you and I have never genuinely tried to hurt the other person.
No.
We've both just tried to figure each other out the whole time.
Yeah, it's always been a discussion, which is good.
Yes, it's always been a discussion, for sure. And that's the thing about relationships, is that, especially in the first couple of years, you're gonna have to argue, and you're gonna have, because you're two different people, see the whole world differently, and you're just gonna chuck each other in a room together and expect to live happily ever after.
Yeah.
Like, either you do that and resentment builds, and then next thing you know, someone has just like ruined your whole life with cheating, or like gone and fucking killed someone, or done something crazy, you know, so resentment builds. Or you argue, and you not arguing in ways of like, I'm right, no, I'm right. I mean, obviously that can come about, but it's kind of like we need to figure out where we stand. You know, we're trying to figure out a way that we can both compromise so that we're both happy living together, and then, you know, then we can live in that honeymoon state that is also now attached to a lot of meaning, because we've put so much time and effort into making sure that the other person is cool with living with your fucked up self.
Yeah, and that's what I obviously realise now, studying the trauma and the mental health and going through the breath work, about like the people in my past relationships. I can literally like feel sorry for them and have compassion for them, because they clearly didn't love themselves enough, but they went about it in a way of getting validation from like heaps of other girls and needing other girls to tell them they were good, to the point that I'm like, well, why didn't they just like say, this is what I need from you, or can you do this, or give me this more? And it could have been like a discussion, but instead they took the easy way of finding other girls, to the point of saying like they didn't have girlfriends, or doing it behind people's back. And then like, it's just, it should always be a discussion between someone, to the point before you get to the stage of hurting someone else. Like,
absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think if you can come from that angle, it's like, hey, and it could be something as innocuous as, you know, all right, let's try to find an example of something that we do that is dumb, that we discuss. So, okay, I've got it. Oh, yeah, what were you going to say?
Well, today, like, you're like, right, I'm ready.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, he'll probably... And now I'm like, I give you leeway. I'm like, he'll be like half an hour.
Yes.
And he's literally like an hour. He's like, I'll be 2 minutes.
Yeah,
2 minutes is half an hour. I'm like, mate.
Yeah.
And then I just said to her, I'm like, get that in check and be better.
But it's true.
Whereas before, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, get it, learn.
And
Be
the
better.
thing is, like, if you don't discuss it and quarrel about it and then figure it out, you're going to move the needle slightly towards resentment. And the further that goes, the more things you just let slide. Like, you and I almost enjoy when the other person brings something up that we don't do well, because it's a chance for us to improve and make the relationship. But like, if I stop doing that, I'm gonna move the needle slightly further towards you loving me even more than you already do, and that's all I could ever want. I want to just keep moving that until we bloody die.
Yeah.
You know. But another example is Siobhan has an issue with, used to have an issue with the way I would do the dishes. And the thing is,
I literally still do.
And the thing is, that's fair enough, because I don't do the dishes that well. You know, I have an issue with the fact that you never put your bloody shoes back on the shoe thing. Yeah. But if we don't discuss it, resentment will build just that little bit.
And it might sound so stupid, but it's not, because if someone in the relationship does something like so tiny that annoys you, imagine every time they're doing that and then they do something else, then something else. Like, it's fucking ridiculous if you just don't say, hey, this is annoying me, and then like change it and move on.
Yeah. See, that's a really good point, I believe, because if you don't bring it up and you let it slide and you let it slide and you let it slide, then anger will come out when they do something that you actually don't care, and then you'll be giving them mixed signals.
Like, everything annoys me now.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I hate it when you just do your hair like that. When in actual fact, that anger is built up because you didn't put the shoe rack back in where it should go, or for example, it's got nothing to do with the hair. But then you'll start thinking, oh, I shouldn't do my hair like this. You know, I'm thinking of a bizarre example, but the most important thing, that the best foundation that you can build a relationship on is honesty. And all those little projections skew that honesty in any way they do.
Yeah, definitely. But I just think with me sharing it for people that have like been betrayed, or maybe going through it right now, or think there's like signs and stuff going through it, like I would 100% open up a conversation about it. Like, definitely keep communicating with your partner to wonder what's going on. Like, ask yourself, how much do I love myself to accept what my partner is doing? Do I really love myself that much to be able, like, would you let your partner treat your best friend like that? Like, that's something you should really ask yourself. And obviously when I look back, like, there's no fucking way I would. Yeah, definitely ask yourself that, and like dive into stuff like seeing a counselor, doing meditation, doing breath work, like doing self-love stuff to see if it will really help that. And like, have boundaries, and if you don't look at where your boundaries are with people, like, fucking set them. It's so important in relationships with anyone and life. And obviously an amazing person that we follow and I always rave about is the holistic psychologist on Instagram. She literally gave me permission to set boundaries with people in my life, and it's the best thing that I ever did with people. Yeah, especially in relationships. It's like, yeah, just seeing where you're at with that. I think that's like a huge piece of, like, it was a fucking golden nugget I got through Instagram, through her page, and I think it's something that everyone should definitely follow or look into.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, I think a really good point there is if you feel like you are being cheated on or being betrayed or something isn't right there in the realm of honesty, irrespective of how much self-love you have, if you have a complete lack of self-love and that to you is normal, don't let it go on. Bring it up. If that person, A, B, and C, whatever happens, work on the self-love component first, you know, to get to a place where that isn't the norm, that isn't acceptable, and that will never be acceptable again, as opposed to just letting it continue, because then that is on you. If you know something is happening and you're not dealing with it, you know, and the whole thing is like, oh, you may not know how to deal with it. Brilliant. Speak to someone who does. You know, do something about it, because we are all worth a hell of a lot more. I mean, we're all human beings. You know, we all should get the best chance we possibly can to have a good life. Yeah. And you and I set boundaries for each other. Yeah. You know, there are things that I do that isn't acceptable. There are things that you do that aren't acceptable. Yeah. And our relationship is a constant mediation between that. And then when we live within the lines, within our own boundaries, it's an exceptional relationship.
Yeah, I agree. And like, another thing is, people might be like, oh, but I've been betrayed, or I just found out, and they've been doing it for like years. Like, I've obviously been in that position too, and then that's something to really learn and take into your next relationship. Like, one thing to know is, like, the person that cheated on you is definitely not in a good place. Like, they're fucking shit for doing it, and they're really hurting inside too, because something's going on with them. And two, it's like, like take that in mind, your next relationships, you don't attract the same person, which I kept attracting the same person until I really looked inside myself and being like, right, how can I bring up my self-love, my boundaries, make myself better so I don't keep attracting that. And I really worked on myself. Like, you have to do the work on yourself to attract better. And if you're just going to be like, oh well, I'm the best and I'm perfect and I shouldn't be cheated on, like, no, you got to work on yourself too to bring up the self-love. Yeah, and I guess if you don't know what that is, like, look into it, like 100%, because you know there's a whole different array of betrayal out there. Like, there's not just one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed that.
Yeah. So I hope can I just say, if you guys like get anything from this podcast, or like there was a golden nugget, or you want to ask questions, just like leave us a comment. Let us know like what you heard that you loved or that you didn't love, and yeah, we'd love to respond to them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed your coffee.
Yeah. Thanks
Stay
for
stimulated.
listening.
Should we do that? Hope you enjoyed your coffee. Stay stimulated.
Stay stimulated. I love it.